everybody, it's Donna in Grand Rapids. Welcome to part 6 of making a beginner Pysanky egg. So in our last segment, we got through the orange section where we had dyed the egg orange and we covered everything with wax that we wanted to be orange. Everything that we wanted to be yellow had already been covered, green had already been covered, and white had already been covered. So now we have all of those colors represented in our design. You just can't see them because the egg is going to come out of this dye looking bright red. So when we left our last video, the egg was orange, and now we're red. And it's been in this red dye a little bit longer than it was in the orange. The orange went pretty quickly over yellow. However, we really want that red to show up as a different color than the orange was. So I think that it's been in there long enough. It's been a couple of minutes, I would say, that it's been in there. And we're going to switch to a clean paper towel. I don't know where the other one even went. And again, being very careful. Take that out of there. Set that red dye aside. Blot this. And now we're going to cover with wax anything in the final design that we want to remain red. So let's take a look at our instructions. Our instructions show us that the star itself is supposed to be red. So all we're really going to do in this red step is color in the star. Now, this might sound easy, but it is one of the most challenging things because one of the beginning pitfalls is you cover up a large area like this and you have specks of the underlying color. So when you cover it in black, you're going to have a bunch of black specks in your red star because you didn't do a good enough job covering it. So if you've got really good eyesight and good light and are patient, you probably will do okay. If you're older like me, or if you do a lot of fine work, a lot of us use magnifying lamps. I actually am using a magnifying lamp right now. I'm not using the magnifying portion of it. I don't need it for this egg, but it's a helpful thing to use where you look through the magnifying glass of a lighted lamp. So all you have to do, and people are going to go, but wait, we're going over top of that other part. Yep, but it doesn't matter because underneath of that is yellow, and all we're doing is applying more wax. You can see I'm doing it in little circles. It's easy to have some under coverage right along the line of the adjacent color. That's okay. Go right on top of that. You want to be sure you cover that so that you don't have a tiny little gap in between the lines. We're getting a little glare here. I'm going to move that off to the side a little bit. I hope that's better. All right. So just color that in. The reason my wax is black is because of the carbon from the flame. So every time you put your kistka into the flame, you're basically creating carbon. And no matter what color, you could be starting with white wax and it would appear black when it goes on the egg. There are some ways to avoid that. One of the ways is to use a electric kistka, which I also do sometimes. And it's just like it sounds. It's an electric tool that has a kistka in it. I'll show it to you. It's right here. And you don't need the candle flame in that point. In that case, you just use this, and it has interchangeable tips. There are also ones that have sets where you can buy one of each size. So you've got a fine tip, a heavy tip, an extra fine tip, a medium tip, etc. And you've got a separate kistka for each one that's electric, for if you don't like changing the tips. And you can also avoid the carbon somewhat by holding your tool sideways in the flame a little bit better. I don't mind having the wax black, actually. I think it's nice to be able to see it. But if, say, for instance, I was working on a black egg, it'd be a little hard to see if I've got good coverage, wouldn't it? So in that case, it might be better to do something to avoid that. The other way that you can avoid it is by using an alcohol lamp. So you get one of these and you burn either 91% rubbing alcohol or denatured alcohol in it. And you can use this as a flame and it makes much less carbon. Since most of you won't have this, I'm trying to use all of the tools that a beginning Pysanky artist would have on hand. And so that's why I am using the tools that I'm using. Whoa. Now, did you see that big glob? Luckily, it all stayed where it needed to be. If that had gone outside of the star, we'd be doing another cleanup. These are all of the kinds of pitfalls that you fall into in the beginning. And I do have to say, they're a lot easier to control with the electric Kistka. So it's sort of like the more advanced you get, you start buying different tools and they're going to perform better for you. So you could just go ahead and start with those tools in the first place, but most people don't. On something this large too, if you're feeling really brave, I don't know if I should do this, you can turn your Kistka over and put a big glob of wax there on purpose because you know it needs to be there, and then you can start trying to spread it around. Some people, even with a huge area, like a really, really huge area, will even use a paintbrush to put their wax on to a really, really large area. This is not that large, and we're just going to do it the old-fashioned way. Doesn't matter how much, just and honestly, a thin coat is sometimes better because you can see if you've got lines or holes that need to be covered. I think our coverage is pretty good here. I will take a look at it with my magnifying light before I put it in the black dye, just to be sure that I have it covered well. Now, normally you'd be doing the back side of this egg too. And if I were doing the back side and if I was making it exactly the same, I would do each of these steps on the back at the same time I was doing them on the front. So this egg is taking us half as long as it would normally if we were doing the back side. And also it's taking longer because I'm doing a lot of talking and explaining as we go through it. You would not normally be having a big conversation about what you're doing. So I'm having a little trouble getting a good flow here, and sometimes the Kistka gets a clog in it, like from lint in the wax or whatever. So I don't think you'll be able to, maybe you can see that. See that? That is a very, very, very thin wire. I've got a piece of tape on the end of it so I don't lose it. And we're going to clean the Kistka out. Now, you take it and you shove it into the tip. Get it in there and just ream it out. And if you do have any kind of clog in there, that usually makes it flow really nicely afterward. So we're probably going to get a much better flow. See how it just started flowing much better already. We're done with this part. We will stick it in the black dye, and then we will remove the wax. It really can look like you're getting this covered all really well, and then all of a sudden you just, when you melt the wax off, there's black spots, and you think, God, that looked like it was covered good. But over time, you get better and better at this step. You also can just do one-sided eggs on purpose and then just write a message or a name or something on the back, or a date if you want to. So maybe I'll do that on this egg. Before we're done here, I'll do it in the red. Okay, so I'm going to take my magnifying lamp and I'm going to take a real good close look at this egg and see if I think I have any places that I need to touch up. And I do see one. I see an opening right there that needed to be covered better. Right there. If you can see the red staring back through this black wax, you can see that you still have places that you needed to cover better. And that's what the importance of having the magnification is, and really good light. And like I was talking about, some of these are right next to the other line that needed better coverage. Oh yeah, I think that looks good now. And on the back of it, I'm just going to write April. What's the date today? I don't know. 20? April 20. No, yeah, April 20. 2, 1. There. So I wrote that on the back, and that'll be there in red. So now we've got this. It looks just like our drawing. Oops. And now we're going to stick it in black dye, and when we come back, we will melt the wax off.